They didn't just take his music, they took his fire, his freedom, his legacy. Lil Wayne built an empire with his voice, and when he needed that empire to fight for him, it went quiet. No tweets, no verses, no loyalty. This isn't a story about a rapper who fell off. This is the truth about how one of hip-hop's greatest was used, replaced, and betrayed by the very system he helped build. The Carter 6 silence wasn't just about music, it was a warning. When the Carter 6 dropped, the reaction wasn't hate, it was silence. And that silence was louder than any diss. There were no viral bars, no culture-shaking anthems, no firestorm of praise, just awkward stillness, like the culture didn't know what to say. But this wasn't because Wayne fell off. It was because we were witnessing the final chapter of a slow betrayal. Sources say that for years, Lil Wayne carried hip-hop on his back. Mixtapes, features, albums, tours. He was the culture. But behind the success, they said he was fighting a war the fans couldn't see. Label delays, blocked albums, legal battles, and calculated sabotage. By the time Carter 6 dropped, he wasn't creating freely, he was surviving, and the culture, unaware of the scars beneath the sound, fell quiet. Not because Wayne had nothing to say, but because the industry made it harder for us to hear him. Carter 6 wasn't a flop, it was a signal. Pusha T didn't diss Wayne, he tried to save him. Long before Carter 6 ever dropped, Pusha T saw the storm coming, and no one listened. When he dropped Infrared in Exodus 23 verse 1, most fans thought it was just another lyrical jab, but insiders said it wasn't. Pusha was sounding the alarm. He wasn't mocking Wayne, he was diagnosing him. In his rap, Pusha T exposed the tangled contracts, the endless middlemen, and the business chains choking Wayne's freedom. And when he called Wayne a flash without the fire, he wasn't insulting his skills. He was warning us that Wayne's light was being stolen, bit by bit. The sad truth, Pusha wasn't hating. He was telling us the system would drain Wayne dry. And now, a decade later, the evidence is everywhere. What we once called beef was actually a blueprint, a message, and we were too blinded by loyalty to hear the truth through the bars. Insiders said that Birdman didn't just manage Wayne, he controlled him. This wasn't a business partnership, it was ownership dressed as family. From the outside, Birdman looked like the mentor who built Lil Wayne into a star. But behind the flashy music videos and father-son talk was a system of control. Wayne wasn't just an artist on Cash Money, he was the engine. Yet despite selling millions, dropping classics, and building Young Money into a dynasty, Wayne was still fighting just to release his own albums. Birdman delayed the Carter V, froze his funds, and reportedly kept Wayne tied to contracts he couldn't escape. And even worse, Birdman molded Wayne from a child. There's old footage where Wayne laughs off being forced into adult situations as a kid, but it's clear now that was trauma, not mentorship. Birdman shaped his voice, his brand, and even his idea of loyalty. And when Wayne pushed back, the machine turned on him. This wasn't mismanagement, it was exploitation, hidden behind a grill and a hug. Young Thug wasn't a coincidence. He was a replacement plan. Just when Wayne was gearing up for his biggest return, Birdman hit the switch. The world was waiting for Thou Carter 5. The hype was electric, but out of nowhere, the album was shelved. No rollout, no date, no explanation. And suddenly, Young Thug stepped into the spotlight. New dreads, similar voice, similar style. And what did Birdman do? He crowned Thug the new best rapper alive. That wasn't support, that was a chess move. He didn't just bench Wayne, he replaced him. The man who built Cash Money was being treated like an old product, iced out, silenced, and swapped for the next version. Wayne had to take Birdman to court just to get Carter 5 released. That's not family, that's betrayal, disguised as business. And through it all, the industry stayed silent, pretending this was just creative evolution. But real fans knew Wayne wasn't being passed the torch, he was being pushed out of the frame. Rick Ross broke the silence. Everyone else was scared too. While the rest of hip-hop sipped champagne with Birdman, Rick Ross lit the match. On his track, Idols Become Rivals, Ross didn't just diss Birdman, he exposed him. How the fuck you touch $1 billion and your whole team starving? That one line shattered the cash money illusion. Ross was calling out the lies, the fake watches, the rented wealth, and the starving artists behind the scenes. He saw what was happening to Wayne, and he refused to stay quiet. While others protected their access, Ross chose the truth. And in interviews, he didn't hide his emotion. I think we all got used to seeing Wayne suffer. That line hit like a gut punch, because he was right. We did get used to it. The delays, the silence, the endless touring. We normalized Wayne's pain because no one dared challenge Birdman. But Ross did. He stood up when it counted. And in doing so, he pulled back the curtain on a rigged system. Drake's silence was louder than any diss. Wayne gave Drake everything, but when Wayne was drowning, Drake said nothing. Lil Wayne didn't just sign Drake, he birthed his career. He gave him the cosign, the platform, the spotlight. Without Wayne, there's no So Far Gone, no Young Money era, no global takeover. But when Wayne was battling Birdman in court, struggling just to release the Carter 5, Drake stayed quiet. No tweet, no feature, no show of support. And that silence cut deeper than a diss track ever could. The same Drake who once said "thank me later" never said "thank you back." Was it strategic silence to protect his own career? Maybe. But it felt like betrayal, especially when Wayne needed loyalty more than ever. This wasn't just a business oversight, it was personal. And it sent a message to every fan watching. Even in an empire Wayne built, he was standing alone, surrounded by success, but abandoned in the fight for his freedom. The industry didn't just forget Wayne, it drained him. By the time Carter 6 dropped, Wayne wasn't rapping from passion, he was rapping to survive. The fire that once made Lil Wayne unstoppable didn't disappear overnight. It was slowly extinguished by bad contracts, endless touring, label delays, and years of silence from the very people he made rich. He wasn't in the studio chasing greatness. He was trapped in a cycle of lawsuits, obligations, and exhaustion. And that's what made Carter 6 sound so different. The voice was still there, the wordplay, the flow, but the spark, that fearless, unchained hunger, was flickering. Because how can you create freely when you're constantly fighting to even be heard? The industry took from Wayne until there was barely anything left to give. What fans heard as a weaker album was really the sound of a legend making art with broken tools, not because he lost it, but because it was taken from him piece by piece over years. Selling his catalog wasn't a power move, it was a last resort. When Wayne sold his entire Young Money catalog for $100 million, many thought it was a business flex, but sources say it was a financial necessity. According to insiders close to the deal, Wayne wasn't just selling music, he was cashing out decades of his life, his own classics, Drake's early work, even Nicki Minaj's greatest hits. Why? Because the industry never paid him what he truly earned in real time. This wasn't retirement money, it was recovery. A scramble to reclaim years of stolen profits, blocked releases, and unpaid royalties. Reports confirm that Wayne's legal battles with Birdman drained him financially and emotionally. And after fighting so long, just to own his voice, he gave it up to survive. To many, it looked like a win, but to those paying attention, it looked like surrender. A quiet goodbye to the catalog he built from nothing, in an industry that gave him everything and then left him with nothing. This wasn't strategy, it was survival wrapped in silence. Wayne wasn't washed, he was worn down. The narrative that Lil Wayne fell off was never true. Sources say he was fighting battles fans never saw. What looked like a decline in music quality was actually the result of emotional exhaustion, legal chains, and an industry that treated him like a machine, not a man. Behind the scenes, Wayne was isolated, cut off from creative control, delayed by lawsuits, and surrounded by silence from those he once helped rise. Insiders reveal that by the time Carter 6 came out, Wayne had been through years of lawsuits, betrayal, and financial damage. It wasn't that he lost his talent, it's that he'd been drained by a system that gave him no rest, no peace, no room to heal. And when he finally did release music, it was judged like he hadn't been through war. The truth is, Wayne isn't washed, he's weathered, and that's a pain few can see. unless they've been used, discarded, and expected to smile through it all. If it can happen to Wayne, it can happen to anyone. Lil Wayne wasn't just a casualty, he was a warning shot the industry ignored. Sources say his story is now being studied behind the scenes by new artists trying to protect their masters, their mental health, and their future. Because if one of the greatest rappers alive can be silenced by contracts, replaced by proteges, and forced to sue just to release music, what chance does a rising artist have without power or protection? This wasn't just about Wayne's downfall. It was about a system designed to chew up talent and spit it out when it's no longer profitable. Pusha T saw it coming. Rick Ross said it plainly. But the rest of the culture stayed quiet, out of fear, loyalty, or denial. And now, we're watching the result. A legacy bruised, a voice dimmed, and a warning that every artist coming up needs to hear. Because what happened to Wayne can happen to anyone if we keep letting the silence win. This was never about whether Lil Wayne fell off. It was about what happens when an artist gives everything to the game, and the game gives nothing back. Wayne's legacy is still legendary, but the scars he carries tell a darker truth. Betrayal, silence, manipulation, all wrapped in platinum plaques. Pusha T tried to warn us. Rick Ross tried to expose it, but we didn't listen until it was too late. If you've ever been inspired by Wayne's music, if you ever shouted Young Money like it meant something, then honor what he built by seeing the system for what it is. This wasn't a fall, it was a takedown. Tap like if this opened your eyes. Hit subscribe if you believe artists deserve more than applause. They deserve protection because the next legend is out there right now. And if we stay silent again, we'll lose them too.